Hello and welcome to this Against the Storm tutorial on the Smoldering City. As I mentioned in the introductory tutorial, this series will be covering all aspects of the gameplay, all of the various features and mechanics of the game. Against the Storm has undergone many overhaul changes in its 2+ years in early access, and the Smoldering City and its screens are no exception. However, now that the game is in version 1.0, we can fully understand and describe how its features work. This tutorial will explain all of the key features of the Smoldering City, its screens and features, and provide some tips and tricks along the way. Smoldering City, also known as the Citadel, is located here in the center of the map on this volcano. You can access it by either clicking on this button at the top of the screen or clicking on it on this volcano itself. It will open this particular screen, which shows a very sparse landscape. Just the Queen's throne room, I guess is what that's supposed to represent, here in almost the center of the map. We also have one small building here, and this is representative of one of the trees in the upgrades tree. There will also be a few more buildings that will appear on the map as you unlock additional trees in the upgrades tree. I will show you those in the latter half of this video when I open up the save that is much later in the game. Besides the lovely view, this screen will also show you a few pieces of information, including the highest seal that you have reforged. In this case, since this save is fresh after the opening tutorials, we have reforged none of the seals. It will also give you some stats. By completing the 2 tutorials, you will gain enough experience to make it to level 2. In fact, just by skipping through the tutorials, you gain enough experience to make it to level 2. You also have 4 buttons here, 3 of which are active right now: Buy Upgrades, Deeds, Game History, and Home. Deeds and Home are unlocked in the Upgrades tree. We have in fact already unlocked the Deeds button, and we will take a look at the Home feature in the back half of this tutorial. I'd like to start with the Game History screen first. This content used to be available in a much simpler form on the Deeds screen. They have enlarged and expanded it, so much so that it needs its own screen now. But here you can see some stats on the games you've played, the games you've lost, and the games you've won. How many deeds you've completed, what your win ratio is, and the total amount of time you've had this save open. As I've been using this for these tutorials, it's had a little bit of time in the open state. However, I haven't played I haven't played any towns on this save yet. Also here in the Citadel upgrades, you can see how many of each of these features you have increased by doing the upgrades in the upgrades tree. We'll take a look at those in a moment, but these are kind of a summary of the different cumulative effects that you can get in the upgrades tree. Also, it will show you the towns you have completed, or in my case, skipped for the tutorials, and some of the statistics on how those towns went. We will take a look at these a little bit more in depth in the latter half of this tutorial as well. For the buttons here on the screen, with the exception of the home screen, you can actually switch between the upgrades, deeds, and game history instead of by clicking back out of this, just by switching to these different tabs. Also featured here are the Daily Expedition and the Training Expedition, both of which are upgraded or unlocked in the upgrades tree, and both of which will be covered in a later tutorial in this series. In the upgrades tree, we have available to us a whole myriad of different upgrades. Each of these upgrades has one cumulative effect and one specific effect on them. The first one we unlocked as part of the tutorial series, unlocks the Obsidian Archive Level 1. That was the building that we saw there on the side of the mountain. This unlocks a cumulative stat of Queen's Patience. You gain a permanent minus 2% to the speed at which the Queen's Impatience grows. You can see the cumulative effect of that stat also right here on the game history screen. In addition to that, we get a singular effect, in this case unlocking the Obsidian Archive itself, because this is the first upgrade available in that Obsidian Archive tree. Each column is a separate tree, and it is a fundamental upgrade. It's a place where records about great viceroys are kept. Unlocks deeds. So by completing the tutorials, or skipping through even, you unlock the deeds feature. You receive enough points to unlock that feature. Upgrades in the tree are, as I mentioned, broken out into 7 different categories. One for each of these different buildings that you will have available to you and visible to you on the map of the town. The first one, as I mentioned, is the Obsidian Archive. Also available here is the Monastery of the Vigilant Flame, the First Dawn Headquarters, the Vanguard Spire, Pioneer's Gate, Brass Forge, and Dim Square. Each one of these will have one cumulative base stat. As you can see, this one is a +3 bonus to trader arrival speed. Over here we have +2 increase to villager walking speed. This one over here gives +1 resource nodes get a permanent +1 to available charges. Permanent +1 to the global chance of producing double yields. Permanent 2% reduction to fuel consumption in hearths. That was the walking speed. We already did that one. +2 to global production speed in your settlement. And then, as I mentioned, each upgrade has some sort of very specific upgrade available with it. This one was the deeds. This one here is a couple of embarkation bonuses. If you watch the embarkation tutorial and saw the difference in the starting game bonuses that are available and the later game bonuses that are available, this is where those come from. We also have something like additional citadel resources when you finish a settlement. An embarkation bonus of villagers. So similar to this, which gives items, this gives an additional group of villagers that you can optionally choose. An additional cornerstone choice. The cornerstone choices, I believe, start with 2, and you'll get a 3rd with this, with unlocking this particular upgrade. Fundamental upgrade, unlocking the consumption control screen. I cover that in a later tutorial as well. Embarkation points. I mentioned in the embarkation tutorial that you can gain up to 10 embarkation points. This is the first one on top of the base number of 3. Hearth upgrade. This allows you to upgrade your hearths to gain some additional bonuses in your town. Trade routes. With unlocking this, you can then establish trade routes between your settlement and nearby settlements. And the list goes on and on and on. These are all broken up by a level. You have to attain a level, which is indicated down here on the main part of the screen. You have to attain a level in order to unlock the next set of upgrades, including the additional buildings, as you can see here. This was the only one available at level 1. These 2 were added at level 2, these 4 at level 3, and so on, all the way up to the maximum level of level 18. You'll also notice that the upgrades get more and more expensive as you climb the tree. All upgrades will require food stockpiles, the first citadel resource, but many of them will require one of the other 2 citadel resources, machinery, or artifacts, in addition to the base number of food stockpiles. I could go through more of these upgrades, but to be honest, they are a very extensive list of things. So I think we will just leave with those few examples and move on to the deeds screen. The deeds screen is sort of like in-game achievements. Some of them are very specific tasks. Some of them are cumulative effects, and so there will be multiples in that tree or that chain of deeds, and many of them end in an achievement that goes out to your game launcher, whether that is Steam or Epic Games. I believe GOG also has achievement tracking in it. And in fact, I think if you have the game in multiple launchers, those achievements will be able to move back and forth or across multiple launchers' tracking systems. You may have to open the game in those different launchers to see those additional achievements, though. Deeds are broken out into different categories: all, general, exploration, prosperity, and industry. And I believe there's still an additional one here for, I can't remember what it's called, but like historic. Achievements or deeds that used to be in the game that you may have earned as part of playing through the game in an earlier state, for those of you who may have played during early access, but that are no longer available. You can also sort the achievements here by recommended, progress, alphabetical, tracked, and achievements. There's a search box here available to search through the names and descriptions, at least, to find achievements you may be interested in. Each achievement will give you some kind of reward. Most of them give experience points, and it's a very modest amount of experience points, just 50. In the early game, it makes a huge difference. As you get into the later levels, it makes less and less of a difference. But some rewards give some kind of upgrade or building that you can put in the main game. This one gives you the Viceroy's Quarters, your own little corner in the Smoldering City, a place where you can rest, collect trophies, and learn about the world. This unlocks the home button down here, and you get this deed and that feature by completing your first game after the tutorial. So it's basically at the very beginning of the game for you. Other rewards include home decorations to go into that home. There's several of those. I don't remember exactly how many. There are different essential buildings, all decorations that you can take with you. I believe they're all decorations that you can take with you to every town and build those decorations as part of building that town. Things like walls and decorative pipes, lamp, but these have no actual functionality in the game other than one very specific thing, which is to help you get those upgraded neighborhood levels that we saw when we were looking at the upgrades tree here, this hearth upgrades. You need to have different types of decorative buildings placed. That's the aesthetics you see there, and the comfort you see there. Those are different types. You need to have certain numbers of different types of buildings built in the range of your hearth in order to do upgrades. But more on that in a later tutorial as well. You can also get different types of cornerstones, which we talked about earlier, but those are bonuses that you can earn every in-game year for that town. And there is an additional type of unlock that I think is an embark bonus that is very hard to find in the list here. But many of them are the essential buildings, cornerstones, the decoration essential buildings. And there's a harmony, that's the third type, and these home decorations. There are very few that don't fall under those categories. And the last one, I think, is still available. Yes, embarkation bonuses, things like leather. You can add leather to your possible pool of embarkation bonuses. Otherwise, the deeds is just a list of those types of things that you can take with you. I just saw one. One additional essential building is the big shelter. you can, this is not a decoration, but it's actually a house. And you can earn that one by winning a game with at least 5 ancient tablets in the warehouse. Reeds is another embarkation bonus. This is another embarkation bonus. I think we will consider that good. Home decorations. Oh, and you can actually unlock the final game mode, the Queen's Hand Trial, by completing the last seal. But we will get into that when we talk about the prestige in a later tutorial. Let's switch now to the other save. As you can see in this other save, I have all of the different buildings, or in this case a little neighborhood, unlocked. You get those unlocked by unlocking the very first upgrade in that upgrade tree. Especially for the ones that look like towers. In my opinion, it would be kind of neat to have that tower get taller as you unlock more of those upgrades. I can understand why it doesn't, but it would be neat for it to do so. As you can see in this upgrades tree, I've unlocked 90, 80 at least % of these upgrades. This is after many towns. In fact, I don't know if this will tell us exactly the number of towns, but at least 50 towns played. I've only upgraded that portion of the upgrades tree. So you can see that the game is very extensive and is very available for sort of repeat playthroughs, as each town is randomly generated with a bunch of varied modifiers and things like that. No two towns are the same, and very few of them are even close. So on this game summary screen, you can see, of course, that I've played a lot of towns. This time is... I don't think they started tracking this until recently, so it's a little bit behind. But you can see all the cumulative effects that I have accumulated here. Some of the effects are negative. They're supposed to be, because this is a slower rate of burn. This is slower rate of gain, which is the bad thing, so it's good that it's negative. Reduced prices, things like that. Here you can see how many of each, well, first of all, which species I played with in each of these towns, how many of which I finished with, what cornerstones I had taken, what buildings I had unlocked, the name, the level of difficulty. I've been playing a little bit on Prestige recently, so the last few are Prestige levels, but there are many Viceroy levels. Note that this history only goes back so far because they added this feature during early access, but there are a lot of towns before this. Also, the amount of time spent playing, the year that we went to, and then the level and the number of upgrades that I played with, I think that's what that means. I actually don't know what that specifically means, but the level that I was at when I played this town. The types of modifiers available from outside forces, world map modifiers, as well as the forest mysteries that were assigned to me. Many forest mysteries that I'm not going to highlight all of these, but many choices of forest mysteries available in the game. And then this tells us... Actually, I don't know what this tells me. I guess that I won? This must mean that I won. The two that I lost here, by the way, were the tutorial levels. They used to track them as losses. They don't anymore. That was changed in the early access period. And then what the biome that I played in was. So, Royal Woodlands here, Scarlet Orchard, Coral Forest, back to the Royal Woodlands, or previously the Royal Woodlands, and the Scarlet Orchard again there, and on and on. Down here we have a Marshlands town. This is a Coral Forest town. Can I go back as far as... I should be able to see... No. Interesting. Well, first of all, there aren't my 2 Prestige 1 towns listed here. Oh, here they are. They're down here. They're not in order. Interesting also. And then there's also the Sealed Forest that I played here to finish up the previous storm cycle before I went into the current one where I started playing as Prestige 1. It's interesting these are out of order. I would have expected them to be in most recent first and then descending time order, but either way there is a list of towns available here. I guess you can kind of see it by the number of upgrades and the level in some respects, but again, that could be a feature or a negative aspect of playing during the early access period. Sometimes things get a little bit changed around. You can also see that I've unlocked the daily expedition and training expedition here in this save. We will take a look at those, as I mentioned earlier, in another tutorial. And then finally here under deeds, you can see that I have completed many of the deeds. Those are all down here. They're grayed out once they're completed. I've completed, I guess, a little over half, maybe, based on where that scroll bar is, at least a little more than half of the deeds. They get harder and harder, so you'll end up with fewer and fewer of them completed as you go on. Those first few games are glorious in terms of deed completions. Yeah, so I think that kind of shows off all the features here in these screens, but we have one more to look at, and that is the home. In the home, some of those deeds give you decorations, and they will appear here automatically. Things hanging from the ceiling based on which biomes you've completed. This suit will change depending on, I think, your highest level seal obtained. Some of these other items are decorations we've obtained. And then our aunt here, Aunt Lori, who's the Queen's Hand, is here visiting us. And she has a whole bit of dialogue, especially in the early game, telling you about different features of the game, telling you some of the backstory and the lore of the game, and then she'll also answer some questions about certain features of the game as well, if you have those questions. Hopefully I'm also covering those thoroughly here in this tutorial series, but if I missed something, by all means, let me know. And then when you're done talking to Aunt Lori and you're done looking at your home here, you can say that I have to go, and you can move on back to the Citadel screen. This pretty much covers everything about the Smoldering City in the game. The remaining tutorials in this series will cover the other aspects of this game, as I mentioned in the beginning. I want to thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section below or join me on Discord. You can find the link to that in the description below, and discuss the game with me there. If there are aspects of the Smoldering City that I didn't cover properly, please let me know, and I will add pinned comments to the video with any supplemental content. If you have suggestions for other tutorials, feel free to leave those as well. I will also be starting the game over with a fresh save in a new Let's Play series, so you can see some practical use of the Smoldering City's varied screens in that series. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.